Get back to that big news today in Washington. The vote in the House of Representatives endorsing impeachment proceedings against President Trump, no surprise, went almost completely along party lines. No Republicans supported it, and they were joined in opposition by just 2 Democrats. The vote highlighted the extreme partisan split over the probe into Trump's dealings with Ukraine on whether they constitute an impeachable offense or even if the House probe into them is legitimate.
Now, these divisions and how they are debated may not affect the outcome of the impeachment votes in Congress, but they could influence the outcome of the 2020 presidential race. Well, earlier, former Democratic Governor of Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, spoke to our anchor, Benita Levine, about that House vote.
Republicans argued, even though they'd argued the other way 20 years ago, it doesn't matter, truth doesn't matter anymore, that it wasn't a fair process. So Speaker Pelosi rightfully said, all right, let's have a vote. Let's lay out the procedures. And that's exactly what they did today. Now, the Republicans don't really have any arguments left. And my best guesstimate is they're going to move very quickly on this. We're going to have public hearings. They had to do this. It was their constitutional duty. Put the politics aside. It was what they had to do politically. But I can tell you, I'm in charge of the elections for tomorrow here in Virginia. We are going to have a historic pickup here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Our House and Senate are both going to flip to be Democratic. And Trump and all his lunacy and antics has really energized our base.
All right, with us to go in-depth from New York, Bernard Whitman. He's a Democratic strategist and president and CEO of Whitman Insight Strategies. In Washington, Tyler O'Neill, a senior editor at PJ Media. And Tyler, let me start with you to sort of react to what you just heard from the former governor, to what he says, that this is not only their constitutional duty, but also, as a side note to that, Republicans have been pushing rather aggressively for this vote to happen for weeks.
Yeah, so I think, Republicans rightly pushed for the vote. Pelosi went forward without the vote. Again, this is the same Pelosi who said that any impeachment process needs to be bipartisan. Today, what we've witnessed is a vote that is nakedly partisan. In fact, it's more than a little bit spooky, coming as it does on Halloween.
Let me ask you, Bernard, as a strategist, President Trump is saying that the Democrats are going to pay for this vote and the ones maybe to come in the 2020 election. What's your response to that?
Well, I think the Democrats will pay for it. They'll reap incredible dividends because the truth is, unfortunately, it's a sad day for our country and a very terrible day for President Trump. It's a great day for democracy. Half of the country, half of the entire country, not only wants to see Donald Trump impeached, they want to see him removed from office. 61% believe that Donald Trump has no respect for democratic institutions. I'm looking outside my window now at the flag of the United States. The founding fathers specifically warned against abuse of power, corruption, using your office for your own political gain, or to root out your political enemies. This is exactly what Donald Trump has done, and we're finally going to get this out in the light of day. We're going to be able to see witnesses from both sides compel testimony, require documents to actually be submitted, and the Republicans are going to have just as much opportunity as the Democrats to question witnesses, to cross-examine, and the American people are, for better or worse, going to be able to see the entire thing unfold on live television. Let's get this out in the front. Let's get this out in the open. And if the Republicans and Donald Trump have nothing to hide, then they shouldn't be opposed to the process.
Well, Tyler, what do you think about that? And help me out here, because if this is going to bring everything out into the open, and more than that, allow President Donald Trump and his lawyers to play an active role in the official impeachment process, shouldn't they be all for it?
Well, see, the problem is what we're talking about here that Trump did, perhaps it deserves maybe a vote of censure, maybe some criticism from perhaps both sides of the House, but certainly not impeachment. We're talking about a small thing that Trump did to push for an investigation of corruption with the Bidens, who, by the way, Hunter Biden is painfully corrupt. He had no experience for this role on the board of Burisma. He had no experience for China either, and yet somehow this son of the vice president, a vice president who was the point man for both of these countries and went soft on them, is suddenly elevated to this position. At the same time, you have Democrats who, went to Ukraine, suggested, hey, we won't support your funding for defense if you don't continue to investigate Trump with the Mueller probe, with the Trump-Russia investigation, which we've learned increasingly is a hoax. You've had Russian collusion
Tyler,
that goes back for decades.
We're straying from the
parties.
subject here into talking points. I just want to clarify. You say it's a small thing that the President of the United States uses his power as president to pressure a foreign nation to investigate a domestic political rival. That is a small thing?
So
this is exactly what the Founding Fathers worried
political.
about.
Tyler, let's just get your reaction to that and then get yours afterwards. Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, the situation is Hunter Biden has a great deal of these connections that really look extremely corrupt. Trump went, and by the way, there's this mention of a quid pro quo. Trump unfroze the funds without getting what he ostensibly wanted in this quid pro quo. So I'm not seeing, like, maybe Trump overstepped his authority. Maybe he did something untoward. But it's harder to make that argument when he comes out with the transcript of the call and when the funds were released before the quid pro quo was satisfied. I really don't see how this is an impeachable offense.
Well, Bernard, what about that argument that even if there was some wrong here, it does not rise to the level of an impeachable offense?
I mean, I'm completely flabbergasted because just because the corrupt actions don't result in a favorable outcome for you doesn't mean that the corrupt actions never happened or were illegal or at best improper. We tried to squeeze a quid pro quo out of a friendly ally who's trying to defend themselves from Russian aggression and used $400 million in aid hostage until President Donald Trump could try to convince the president of Ukraine to investigate one of his political enemies. I mean, this is blatant corruption. And Donald Trump, by the way, I don't know why we're really that surprised. Donald Trump has behaved as a bully, as a criminal, as a liar, as a thief his entire business career. Why would he not do the same thing as president? You know, and this is no coincidence. This happened the day after Bob Mueller testified on Russian interference on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. in front of everybody. And Donald Trump snubbed his nose at that and said, you know what? I can do whatever I want. I can get Russia. I can get China. Let's get Ukraine to give me dirt on my political enemies. It doesn't matter. I'm president. I can do whatever I want. This is exactly what a dictator does. This is exactly what the type of criminal autocrat that exists in other countries that we decry and we fight against. This is exactly what the Founding Fathers warned about, and it's outrageous to defend him. I'm shocked.
Tyler, should we be shocked?
Glad that you brought up Mueller. I mean, the thing that's more shocking to me is following the 2-year investigation that was predicated essentially on nothing, that, you know, Mueller came out and he was supposed to be the savior of the republic. He comes out and looks like a bumbling fool. And now we have Andrew McCarthy's new book, Ball of Collusion, which goes step by step into why the collusion narrative was false and flawed from the start, and why this was a partisan political investigation trying to get rid of a duly elected president. What I see with this impeachment push is the same thing. You have Democrats who were expecting that Mueller was going to come out with the smoking gun to prove that President Trump was this horrible thing, like you said, a tyrant, a dictator. And it turns out he proved nothing of the sort. And now they have another situation that they're trying to explode. You saw the identity of this whistleblower who is connected with the Biden campaign, with
of the whistleblower as American law works. That's the point of the structure of having whistleblowers. So let's not veer into unsubstantiated claims. I just want to give Bernard one more chance to respond in about 20 seconds.